Texas Podcast Massacre contains spoilers and adult language. For more horror, visit us at our website at texaspodcastmassacre.com.
Welcome to another episode of Texas Podcast Massacre. I'm your host, Nate, and with me as always is no one. That's right. This is a solo episode. Somehow, some way, Mitch picked a doll puppet themed month, and I got stuck doing a solo episode. The greatest trick Mitch ever pulled was convincing me that this was a theme month that would essentially be him getting to pick the movies, finally, not complaining anymore. Yet here we are, all by myself, as Green Day put it. And, we're just going to push through, continue week 3 of the Doll of Fame with another episode on this ridiculous, I must say, again, themed month that the person who picked it is not here. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's episode. I'm going to go with classic, semi-erotic horror shaman doll movie, Suddenly in the Dark, a.k.a. Suddenly at Midnight, a.k.a. Suddenly in Dark Night.
이번에 지리산 계곡에서 발견했습니다.
저건 뭐야? 그 일종의 희귀종인데?
누구예요?
미역이란 아가씨야. 방황하고 있길래 내가 데리고 왔지.
여기가 이제부터 미역이 방이야.
무당은 저 애가 용두산 용신할매의 혼령을 받고 태어났다고.
아무나 보면 안 돼요. 내 거예요. 네 남편이 설마 그런 짓을 하겠니? 얘, 너 사람 의심하는 것처럼 무서운 일은 없다. 그래서 내가 미칠 지경이야. 넌 누굴 죽이려고 그랬어? 네가 일부러 그랬지?
Well, that was something. Suddenly in the Dark, 1981, Korea, made by a company known, Nama Pictures Company, Limited, in case you were wondering if it was unlimited or limited. Nama Pictures, known for a string of erotic movies, along with a variety of war and drama films as well. So they really branched out, but this one falls firmly into the erotic camp. The premise on this one, as I guess the unsuspecting victim and host and doll of fame committee nominee member, the pitch for this movie is essentially there is a wealthy biologist who spends more time with butterflies than his family. While not spending time with his family, he happens to pick up a 19-year-old girl on his travels. Sounds as coincidental as it seems. Whose mom was a shaman priestess who died in a fire. The only thing that remained was a doll. And the wife of this biology professor starts slowly going insane. Is it all paranoia? Is it the shaman doll come to life? It's the latter. So not much not much taming of the shrew here. It is definitely the doll. But before we get into the actual film, let me break down a little bit of information about this. Now, this is a 1981 almost lost horror classic from Korea. Not a lot of films not a lot of lower budget, especially this weird erotic cult movie, made it over to the U.S. This movie was first released on Blu-ray in 2017 by Mondo Macabro. I did look up the Blu-ray. Not a whole lot of special features I'm interested in. If there was, definitely would be added to the Naterian collection, but probably will not be. But if you're interested in doll movies, if you're interested in underrated classics with crazy psychedelic dream sequences and one of the creepiest dolls of all time, this one's for you, for sure. The movie was released July 17th in 1981, only in, I'm just going to say Korea. It wasn't North Korea, South Korea. It's got a time of 95 minutes. On IMDb, it is a surprisingly high 6.6 with only 354 reviews. This, like I said, this is a bit of a deep cut. We're going deep into dolldom to get this one. You can watch it for free right now, which is what I did on Tubi TV. If you don't mind a few ads, totally free. If you go to IMDb, it is a link right on that page. So no excuse not to watch this underseen classic. Some of the worst housekeeping done in a film I've ever seen. And within the first 10 minutes, you already have basically 2 sex scenes. So if that sounds interesting to you, it's one click away. The director on this one was Young Nam Ko. He is known for some other films that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, other than Korean Connection in 1990. The majority of his films are not rated on IMDb, which I have never come across before. These are just a lot of low budget, cranked out movies. He made 5 films in 1978, 4 in 77. Had a nice top off of 5 again in 76, 75 extremely lucrative, going up to 7 films. So you get the gist of what was happening here. And it wasn't quality. It was cranking them out. Looks like 1971 was 9 films. I thought, 1969, which this guy was probably a huge fan of just based on his film. We had 9 films as well. So this person in the span of a decade made, I don't know, a decade and a half made something like 70 films. So you would think normally, all right, he's just churning these out. This is someone who makes, 12 Lifetime movies about someone getting poisoned. But for some reason, this diamond in the rough, made it slightly into the cult movie scene. And from there has grown a very small but devoted following. And I would probably include myself in that list at this point because I was a fan of this one. In terms of actors or actresses, not a whole lot here other than Young A. Kim. She is an actress born in 1951. So when this came out, she was about 30 and ended up being in quite a bit of Korean TV shows and films even until the end of her life. Pretty much the only actor that worked any amount other than the other people in the cast. Speaking of the cast, there is almost no one in this film. This could have been filmed during COVID. There is no one in here. There are essentially 4 credited people and somewhere around 10 to 11 total people on screen. There is the biologist, his wife, their daughter, the 19-year-old girl he transmagically picks up on the side of the road while he's looking for butterflies and brings her to their house because they need a housekeeper. the wife has a friend, and the biologist, when he comes back with pictures of butterflies, which apparently got him very rich somehow in this alternate Korean universe, has 3 or 4 biology friends as well. That's it. There is almost no one in this film. It's essentially 3 people in this one, and it's actually fairly effective for its 95-minute runtime. Again, there's not very much information on this movie. It had multiple different names, as I mentioned. Suddenly in the Dark, Suddenly in Dark Night, Suddenly at Midnight. There's a lot of suddenly, but it actually works extremely well into the mental state of what happens to the main character, the biologist's wife, Seon-hee. So I'm going to say Suddenly at Midnight is my favorite of the 3, but they're all pretty great, actually. It kind of reminds me of a giallo film title. Speaking of which, some of the related films on IMDb for this are insane as well and probably worth a look too. 1968's The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch has one of the creepier outfits that actually looks pretty similar to this doll in the poster. So I'm going to go ahead and just recommend that one for absolutely no reason. It could be the worst movie ever made. I don't know. It's on AMC Plus, so go check that out. And there's The Blood Spattered Bride from 1972, which looks great as well. I'm just recommending movies that have nothing to do with the original movie, but there's nothing. So here we are. The storyline for that one: a young husband's sexual fantasies frighten his new wife and cause her to seek advice from Carmilla, a descendant of Merkala de Karnstein. Carmilla seduces the young bride and forces her to commit gory acts of mutilation. Again, if this sounds like a movie you'd be interested in, there you go. Taglines for that one are incredible. The Revenge of a Young Bride on Her Wedding Night and Till Death Do They Part. So there you go. Nothing to do with the movie we're watching, but here we are in terms of the research I was able to do on this one. This obviously isn't a normal episode. I keep talking with no one interrupting me, so we'll just keep that going. Let me talk about what this movie is. It is a it's like an early horror film that is extremely psychological in nature. So Mitch isn't here to say, oh, the movie should be all slashers and have no nuance. So I get to talk up the psychological aspect of this film. I mentioned The Taming of the Shrew previously, Henry James's book. You might have seen, first of all, a million movies based on The Taming of the Shrew, but the classic Innocence 60s film featuring the child who acted in Village of the Damned, the blonde boy. I forgot his name in the movie, but creepy as hell. This is in that realm. Psychological, supernatural. Is she paranoid for this 19-year-old young woman to be in her home that her husband randomly picked up on literally a butterfly sightseeing trip? To be fair, a little bit of paranoia doesn't sound unreasonable there. Or is it the extremely creepy doll that she has with her that she sees in her dreams? It is until the end, it is not quite clear which way it goes. And even knowing potentially, the reality of what occurs, they still leave a little room for interpretation. I think it was definitely real and supernatural, and it happened. But it does keep you guessing on which parts are real and which parts aren't, because she is an unreliable narrator. And there is a variety of trippy hallucinogenic, like 60s-esque, like psychedelic effects, crazy cinematography, crazy camera angles, a lot of out there, I would say almost avant-garde type work being done here. And it surprisingly works extremely well. Throw into that this is basically a softcore porn movie at times, here and there with, I mean, the number of sex scenes imagined in dreams or real, is, easily 6 or 7. So you're getting up there with the percentage of the film that has some of these things. To be honest, it wasn't too gross. If this is definitely not a good episode to be doing by yourself, but I would say it wasn't too gross and didn't really detract from the film for me, where in other films it definitely has. But I would say not too bad. It shouldn't scare anyone dramatically away. I will say the acting from the main character, she is very good. All the setups in the film are basically soap opera-esque, like confrontations and dramatic fainting and some yelling and screaming. The setups, I mentioned a Lifetime movie previously, to be honest, a little bit of Lifetime-esque, but the actors really go for it, especially the main character, who's the wife of the biologist, and the young woman, Miyok, whose mom was the burned alive shaman. Great acting on both sides, from Miyok being, very a naive young woman to showing a variety of cunning and intelligence where she didn't have that before. From the wife, trying to keep it together, definitely having mental illness, either supernaturally impacted by a doll or from her home life being shook up so dramatically and her husband being gone so long. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Butterfly sightseeing trips where he's gone for weeks at a time looking for butterflies, somehow wealthy from that. If anyone knows how to get wealthy from butterfly sightseeing trips and being a biologist, please let me know. I didn't mention it earlier in the episode, but tweet us at TXPodMassacre on Twitter, Texas Podcast Massacre everywhere else. Hey, send biologists. There's got to be a biologist somewhere in our listenership. We have people from all over. Maybe there's some South Korean biologists. We definitely have some fans in South Korea. Let us know, how do you get rich? I can't imagine it's easy. I can't imagine there's a whole lot of butterfly biologists who are just living in rural mansions with huge houses, able to pick up 19-year-old homeless people to be their maids. But again, TexasPodcastMassacre@gmail.com. Email us. Give us a 5-star review for all those biologists out there. Hey, are there other erotic horror cult South Korean classics that we don't know about? I only know about one. So if there's any others that are good, I will not know them. Email those to us. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, the podcast platform of your choice. We will review it, and if I could get Mitch on one of these things and actually watch this, it would probably be incredible. So keep those 5-star reviews coming. Give us a call, 346-246-3143. Let us know what you thought when you clicked on that Tubi TV link from IMDb and watched this batshit film. Back to the review. So some of the highlights of this film include one of the most ridiculous window cleaning deaths of all time. Yes, you read that correctly. Window cleaning death. Where does the death occur? Well, everyone should know by now, if you're cleaning a window and you fall to your death, it's got to be the attic. Team basement, on this one for sure. And again, Mitch not here to defend addicts at all. So addicts are the worst. When a 19-year-old who's potentially trying to kill you with a murder doll falls to her death, it's got to be from an addict. That's I don't know if there's an addict lobby like the milk lobby that could get some commercials going, but that sounds like a great slogan. You want to fall to your death, but have clean windows. Addicts trademark. The ridiculousness of some of the scenes is pretty crazy. The mom giving a 19-year-old a bath she'd never met before in the first, 20 minutes of meeting her. A choice. There is a little girl who they have together. Clearly the dad is absentee, looking at butterflies more than his kid. But to be fair, no one's really watching the kid. So it all evens out. There's a friend who at first says, hey, your husband is this rich biologist, a lot of butterflies, a lot going for him, pretty big catch for the young ladies. We're getting older, you're in your 30s, who knows what happens sometimes. Then a hot 19-year-old who barely buttons up her shirts comes in to be the maid, very flirty, very suggestive. And that same friend says, we should probably go to a sane asylum because you sound crazy. Get better friends is probably the main moral of the story there for your mental health. Just have some better friends. Couldn't hurt. And the dynamic between the two is, is pretty intense. If you've ever been in a relationship that's on the edge or been around, tense situation where anytime anyone does something and someone jumps down their throat, that's part of this movie. Gets very uncomfortable, interspersed with terrible, sexy doll nightmares and dolls moving and coming at you. And then you wake up in a sweat suddenly in the dark or suddenly at midnight. It actually ratchets the tension up pretty solidly. By the end, something's going to happen. This woman is just on the edge, about to lose it. I mean, vibes of, Rosemary's Baby, Hereditary, with just, there's just nowhere else my nerves can go for this character. Something has to give. And it does, with a Rube Goldberg-esque prying of a wooden board on a window in the attic, precariously placing chairs and crates for her to wash the window on. Why are you washing a window in basically a boarded up attic? First of all, don't go in the attic. You're alive. Second of all, she's washing the windows just so eagerly and just pushes through the window, falling to her death very graphically. It's not going well for you. So the wife sets up the young woman to be murdered. Did the young woman almost drop a flower pot from the second story onto her head on purpose? Yes. Did that same girl take things and plant them and make her think she's crazy and her husband thinks she's crazy and try to seduce the husband by falling asleep on a couch with like barely any clothes on when she knew he's going to come home, and a variety of other ways? Also, yes. But your murder plan didn't go well when the policeman comes. Yeah, you fooled him. Policeman fooled. Daughter fooled. She just sees, someone's dead at your house, whatever. No one cares about this kid, so it's fine. Husband's like, oh man, I guess, she was dumb. I don't know. This guy's terrible. I'll just bring someone into my house and say, oh, if you want her to leave, cool. Oh, she died. Oh, cool. Whatever. She fools everybody, but not the doll. The doll is at the place where she died, and the dreams get much worse. She tries to tell her husband. Her husband says, you're obsessed. You're terrible. I'm taking your daughter away from you. If you're not feeling well mentally and in a really bad place, best move from this dad, which he does for everything in his family life, leave. So they leave her alone all by herself, and there is a extremely creepy confrontation where it's almost picture in picture, the doll moving on its own, extremely creepy. On this episode, there'll be a picture of the doll on social media linking to the episode where you'll see how creepy as hell this doll looks. Superimposed over that, and some of the worst CGI of all time, but still pretty effective, is obviously Miyuk's character in white face paint, just insane smile with a knife coming at her. She gets stabbed a million times by the main character. Doesn't matter. Blood on her, just smiling, laughing. A chase scene. Again, you don't know if it's real or fake. Or if it's real or in her head, and it's extremely effective. It gave me vibes of the ending of Hausu, which is one of the best compliments I could possibly give a movie of this type. It really works. It's extremely effective. It's a one-on-one with a woman pushed to the edge versus the incarnation of the woman who tried to steal her place in her home, with the soul of her mother in a shaman doll from a mysterious house fire death coming to life to attack a woman. When you say it out loud like that, it sounds ridiculous, but I promise you it actually does work. It's a pretty interesting and long and intense battle between the two, with the wife essentially destroying the entire house, but stabbing Miyuk's ghost incarnation coming from the doll. I think the doll's a vessel. I don't know much about Korean shamanism. I'm assuming I missed a little bit. I missed a little bit there in terms of what some of the symbolism and meaning was, but I think I got the gist. But she stabs her and the ghost a million times and wins. Cut to black. Oh, hey, conveniently, after all the action and help would have been necessary, the husband comes back home, finds the house ridiculously trashed. Not sure what he expected with a wife he accused of having a mental illness multiple times, telling her to go to a psychiatrist or go to a hospital. Then leaves her alone, comes back, actually surprised the house is a mess. I guess it's one track butterfly brain, nothing else, no other lanes. It's just butterflies, or I'm leaving. Like it's I'm leaving and butterflies, or I'm leaving. There's no staying component to this guy's brain. Maybe it's because he's just so dedicated. That's how he got all that money. Not sure, but comes back and his wife is sitting there, white face paint, holding it almost looks like a straight razor, but more creepy, which the doll had been holding the entire film, making it even more ominous. And she's just sitting there, not moving, with the doll next to her, looking exactly like the doll. And that is the ending. Go to credits. Pretty incredible final shot for a film that ended well and then capped it off with an incredible final, just look at her exactly the same as the doll. The husband, again, it's not butterfly related, so he's just incredulous. What is this? What happened? Just worthless. So, ending incredible. And I mean, the more I talk about it, the more I'm fondly recalling how everything went. So recommendation is go see it. But I'll go to a little more depth with the final cut.
Final cut.
So I recommended the movie. Clearly, it's going to be a good score. Solo episode. So my score is the average score. This is going to be on the higher end. This is a deep cut. The acting is cheesy in a Lifetime film sort of way. There's almost no characters in this film. It is just, it's Lighthouse-esque. But instead of birds and mermaids with shark vaginas, it's dolls and butterflies. I don't know how much. I don't know what more you could possibly want from that, or how much better of a compliment I could give. So I'm going to give this movie. I mean, this was riveting from start to finish. Bad in a good way, good in a great way at the same time. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10 falls from the attic. It is a deep cut classic that I hope some of you end up watching, because I really enjoyed it and no one has seen this film. So if I could talk to anyone about it, including my co-host on this podcast, that would be fantastic, because it doesn't go Houseu levels of weird. So I compared it to Houseu a little bit. It does not go that level of bananas, pun intended, go watch Houseu. But it goes weird enough where it still works. It's not quite as off the wall or off-putting potentially to some people. The sex scenes and the amount of them might be. Some of the just over dramatized soap opera-esque acting and scenarios might be a little bit of a turnoff. But if you're into some slightly weird stuff with some creepy dolls, this is the movie for you. And as the sole committee member of the Doll of Fame nominating committee, I hereby, in a shamanistic way, induct suddenly in the dark doll into the Doll of Fame. Probably the best contender, like the Michael Jordan or the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar of of murder early 80s Korean shaman dolls. So that's it. I hope this interesting solo episode wasn't too ridiculous for you. If not, don't worry. Next week we're doing Puppet Master. God damn it. It cannot win. There's just no way. Puppet Master, solo episodes, dolls. I don't know how I got roped into this. I feel like Mitch picked up a 19-year-old young woman in a car that was the Doll of Fame theme month, dropped it off in my lap, and then just left. That's actually, this movie is almost a 10 out of 10. It literally describes what's happening right now. But yeah, next week we will finish the Doll of Fame and be at Fantastic Fest with Puppet Master 3. Fortunately, around all of that, there will be good new films that we can tell you about and give our impressions from things that are hopefully actually good. So that's it for this week's episode of Texas Podcast Massacre. I'm Nate. I am not a shaman, and I don't have creepy dolls, so that's a positive. But if you watch this movie on Tubi, just keep telling yourself it's only a movie. Good night.